I quit. You ever said those words? Okay. Have you ever thought those words and you didn't articulate them? I quit. When I was a pastor, I quit on a lot of Mondays. First, there would be the emotional high of preaching and just being in the Word and worship services. And then the person would come up to me after the service and want to talk to me. You know how that is. Sometimes they'd want to talk to me before the service, right before I preach. And you know how that is. I quit. The critics are after you. You're weary of just doing the same thing and wondering if this incremental progress, if any, is worth it. I quit. Some of you quit in your heart. Some of you quit literally. But I want to talk to you pastors who are thinking about quitting. I'm not going to say that quitting is not in the will of God, because it may be. I don't want to be presumptuous. But I do want to give you 9 encouragements for you pastors who want to quit, who are thinking about quitting. Let's go through each of these, 1 through 9. Number 1, many storms pass quickly. So what you think is this awful thing, this horrendous issue, this big stumbling block, it could just disappear. I was talking to a coach, one of the pastors I coached today, and last time I talked with him, which was a month earlier, we had gone over this big issue in his church, and he was just saying, "This is huge. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to keep my job. I mean, I'm going to have to confront one of the leaders." And we just talked through it. And, of course, that's the first thing I asked. I said, "How's the situation going?" "Oh, it's really working out just fine. We came to an understanding. Almost forgotten about it." 30 days later, this monumental issue had just evaporated. And again, that doesn't mean they all will, but many storms will pass quickly. Sometimes you just need to wait and see if the storm's going to pass before you react too hastily. Secondly, it's probably not you. Now, what do I mean by that? Sometimes when you have people who criticize or attack you, it's not because they are against you. As counterintuitive as it may seem or feel, what it may mean is that they're having a personal problem. They're having a struggle. And the only way they know how to vent is they take it out on you because you're the pastor. Many times it's probably not you. It's a family issue. It's dealing with change. It's dealing with hurt. It's even possibly dealing with trauma in their lives that maybe they have not identified. It's not always you. Don't think that you are the problem all the time. Number 3, the vast majority of the congregation supports you. You're dealing with the squeaky wheel metaphor. You're dealing with the constant critic. And they have a megaphone. In fact, they have a digital megaphone that is so loud you hear it almost everywhere that you go. And so as a result, you think that they are the typical church member. You think they represent everyone in the church. Now, rationally, you may understand otherwise, but emotionally, that's how you handle it. These critics really don't like me. But the reality of it is, the vast majority of the congregation supports you in most church situations. So hear me well. You're not, unfortunately, hearing from those who love you, like you, and support you as frequently as you are those who are your critics. But understand, there is a silent majority, I wish they were more vocal, a silent majority who truly supports you. Lead for their sake as well as for the critic's sake. Number 4, this may be one of the most important. Remember your call. You are called of God not to a life of ease, not to a life where you're always encouraged and supported by others, not to a life where everything goes well all the time. You are simply called. You are called to ministry. Ministry is ugly at times. Churches can be a mess at times. This is the ministry to which you are called. If it was always good, they probably wouldn't need you as a pastor. You are a shepherd to sheep, and sheep are sometimes a mess. Remember your call. Remember God has called you. Remember that is the reason that you're there. Hang on to that call. It can sustain you in the most difficult of times. Number 5, longer-term pastors do see better days. I've heard it again and again. I am glad I didn't leave the church when I thought I was ready to just explode and run away as quickly. I'm glad I hung in there. We've said this many times. Really, it's around years 0 to 1 is the honeymoon time. 1 to 3 is the time. Years 1 to 3 are the times of trial and testing. 3 and 5 are kind of a transition period. And then the really fruit, well, that really begins to take place in year 5 or longer. So sometimes it's just a matter of hanging in there. If you think you want to quit, here's reality. Better days are most likely ahead. This one is similar to number 2, where it's probably not you, but I want to articulate it specifically. Hurting church members often hurt others. Hurting church members often hurt others. There are members in your church that are hurting. You know some of the hurt, some of them you do not know. And they are hurting, and they're in pain, and they lash out. And the obvious target many times is you. Now they may be criticizing others, they may be fussing about others, but you are an easy target. Many times you're dealing with hurting members, and these hurting church members often hurt others, including you. Number 7 is not necessarily better in other churches. I've heard one pastor after another talk about the green grass and how these people don't do any kind of outreach. I'm going to go to this other church where they're outwardly focused. Or how these people always criticize. I'm going to go to the church because they're really unified and loving. Here's reality. All churches have their messiness. You're not going to escape messiness by going from one church to another. If God calls, fine, but don't think you can escape the messiness of church life by moving from one church to another. It's not better in other churches. Sometimes it can be a lot worse. So don't assume that the green grass syndrome is not just a syndrome. Assume that it is reality, that the green grass is not always greener in the other churches. Number 8, this is worth noting. I mentioned this in my book, Who Moved My Pulpit. The changing culture frustrates many church members. They see the world around them changing. They see the advances of technology. They see what they think is culture going to hell in a handbasket. And they're just really frustrated. And what do they want? They want to come to the church and there's constancy, there's stability, and nothing ever changes. But you know that's not going to happen either. Change is going to come to church. And so they have this changing culture that has frustrated them to the max. And now they come to church and they see you're leading change, or change is taking place, and they're frustrated. Understand that many of these church members are frustrated because of the changing culture around them. And just like hurting church members often hurt others, those who are frustrated by change often lash out as well. The changing culture frustrates many church members. Finally, number 9, and whereas remember your call is closely connected to this, understand number 9, God is with you. Emmanuel, God is with you. God has not left you. The God who called you to ministry is still there. The God who saved you is still there. And that those times that appear to be desolate, dry, and discouraging, those are normal seasons. As hard as they are normal seasons for pastors. But what does not change during those seasons is the presence of God. You may have to go back sometimes to the role of the prophets and see how discouraged they were. You may need to look at some of the writings of the Apostle Paul and see how frustrated he was. But you would never say that God was not with the prophets. You would never say that God was not with Paul. And you should never say, where is God in my ministry? God is still with you. I quit. That might be what's in your heart right now. That may be something that will be coming in the future. It may have been a path that you have crossed in the past. Don't quit for the wrong reasons. If God calls you to another place of ministry, fine. But don't quit for the wrong reason. Take these encouragements to hang in there. Thank you as always to Costco, the design build firm that we recommend again and again. We've recommended them to hundreds of churches and seen incredible ministry take place for church building and for church remodeling. Contact Tim Songster, the president and CEO, and go to churchdesign.com where you can learn more about them. Thank you for being here. As always, it's a delight to be with you on the Rainer Report. I love doing this every couple of weeks, and I'll see you very soon as we'll be talking about more critical issues confronting leadership and the church.